This is Southerland for FTT122, week 7, assignment 7. There's going to be pauses and whatnot, and I don't have a camera holder. Part 1. Using a dummy cartridge that you received in the course, demonstrate the proper method for disassembling the bullet and its multi-components, and describe which components you are missing because it's a dummy cartridge, and articulate how those missing components would be removed if the round were live. First, a 223 Remington. Real quick, there is no real ammunition in my workspace, and there are no firearms. So we've got the bullet puller, the collet, the dummy round, which doesn't have a primer or powder, which makes that a dummy round. Real quick on the, if I had to remove it when it was live, I'd pull the bullet, pull the powder, make sure it's empty, take it outside with a gun of the proper caliber, and then shoot the round, or then pop the primer, and then eject the casing, and then I would know more about that. I'm going to pull this bullet, I'm going to put it all together, and then I'll come back. Well, the 223 Remington, I did like 30 or 40 whacks with it, and so I had to change over to the 270 round. So these are the components that are there. What's missing? Obviously the primer and the powder. Next, it's we already covered what's missing. Use the dummy cartridge you disassembled in the previous part to demonstrate the proper method for finding the measurements. I'm going to try to do, and we'll use our calipers here. And what you can do for the shell casing is measure the projectile length. We'll use the other ones for this. The base to the neck is 2.4935. Okay. The projectile diameter is 0.2840. 0.2835, sorry. The case diameters. So we're going to measure the rim, which is 0.4645. For the rim, it's a 0.5230. So that's the rim. The case head, we did that here, 0.5285. The body, it's going to vary in different spots. In this location here, it's 0.507. Up near the neck, it's going to be 0.4925. The neck is 0.3095, and shoulder is 0.4865. Next, we have the measurements for the shell casing. And the numbers do change just a little bit from what I'd said earlier, but not significantly on the amount. So here's the 270 shell casing. You can see the numbers there again. And here's the round. It didn't ask for us to measure the round itself. Part 3, once the measurements have been recorded, draw a scale copy of the cartridge and the components. Let me measure the bullet. The next part of it is measuring the round, and I've already drawn it out real quick. So the length we have 1.098. The base of the cartridge 0.2410. In the cantilever, or whatever we got here, the crimp, we have 0.2830, and then just before it gets to the actual lead portion, it's 0.2150, and the results are recorded here for both of those. Next, we're going to measure calibrate the scale. $1,000. Okay. The weight is in grains 145.1 on the cartridge itself. On the shell casing, it is 229.0. And so that is the best way to find the weight on the bullet. If there were powder, I would be using this here, this little dish, and I would zero out the scale for tearing, maybe. Let me pause this and... All right, so we got that zeroed. For notional purposes, I'm going to measure this and say it's the grains of powder. You got to make sure your scale is on grains, which is over here, instead of... so you want it on grains. Anyway, that's 38 grains. And the primer, you don't need... Everything else is weighed. Let me run through real quick and make sure the criteria is met for this assignment. Demonstrate the proper method. It's a dummy cartridge. I explained how those parts are missing, the powder and the primer. I had to disassemble it off camera because it took 2 different rounds to actually get the desired result. The 5.56 took 30 or 40 whacks and it's still not apart. Using the proper collet. Measured the rounds, recorded the measurements, drew a scale copy of the components while on video. I didn't do that part, but I used my ruler and my handy dandy pencil for it. I traced the round like they showed in the video. Let's see, demonstrate the proper method for finding projectile's weight using the scale you received for the course. So components that I used were provided by SDI, and I went down the list of things. The only thing I couldn't do on camera was pull the bullet. I had to do that on a harder surface than the kitchen table. If there's any questions, please let me know. Thank you, sir.